My small Showman's engine needs some repairs. This one is part 2. With the canopy removed, I can now see more detail of this very well made 1.5-inch scale Showman's engine. This episode shows some of the features and modifications that were made during the initial rebuild after I first bought it. Generally speaking, this is a very well built traction engine, and as far as I'm aware, 3 people owned it and worked on it. When I first bought it, parts of the engine were in very bad condition and ended up in the bin. I remade quite a lot of the engine parts, including the part that's inside the cylinder, the piston. The steam arrangement on this engine is unusual. There's a lot more piping than there is on my large Showman's engine. This is the main steam feed pipe from the boiler, and it goes all the way up to where the regulator lives. And between where the steam pipe exits the smoke box and goes into the regulator, there is a T-piece which takes some steam to operate the blower. This is the blower valve, and this part is where the steam connects to the internal blower. I'll show you that very shortly. Unlike on my large Showman's engine, on this one, the blower valve can be remotely operated, which is a good thing. Another nice feature is the way that you remove the chimney. You don't need to undo all the nuts around the perimeter. You just unplug it from the socket. One of the problems with this traction engine is the lubricator radically over-lubricates. Here I'm wiping away the excess oil emanating from the blast pipe. The ring around the blast pipe that I'm pointing at currently is the blower ring. It's just a coil of copper tubing with 3 holes in it. When I open the blower valve, this directs a jet of steam up the chimney to draw the fire. And that was a demonstration how the blower blows. The problem with the over-oiling really is a problem. It's so extreme that the smoke box is full of oil mixed with soot, which is not a good combination, and the oil even runs from the smoke box down the bottom tubes and drips out of the ashpan. After replugging the chimney into the socket, I'm going to show you inside the smoke box. The fitting that holds the smoke box door closed on this engine is peculiar. The outer lever is pinned to the shaft, and it's the inner lever that is threaded, and that's the one you turn. A strange arrangement that had me fooled when I first bought the engine, but at least it works. Here's the inside of the smoke box, complete with very oily soot. I wiped some of it away and then closed the smoke box and locked it in position. I will give it a better clean than this, but not in this part of the workshop, which is supposed to be my clean workshop. Here is something that is decidedly odd, the number plate. A friend of mine used to have an engraving business, so I got him to machine some number plates for the engine, and the number 666 was used because at the time I bought this engine, in my recording studio, which was built onto the other house, we were still recording a lot of death and doom metal bands. Obviously KA, my initials, 666, the number of the beast. And at this stage I'd better explain that has no bearing on my religious beliefs. I am not a Satanist. When I had these number plates made, I had never seen the film The Iron Maiden. And I only saw the film fairly recently, and I was amazed to see there was 666 in the number plate of the Iron Maiden. And to be honest, it was just a coincidence. I really had never seen the film. Back to the oil problem, and as you can see, there's plenty of that on the damper. When lubricating the engine with lubricating oil, quite a lot of it runs down and ends up here. As I've already mentioned, there is some oil on the inside of the ashpan, but this is steam oil. This is the mechanical lubricator, and it's the same type that will be fitted to a miniature steam locomotive. This is a ratchet lubricator. You'll see how it works very shortly. The only way to adjust the oil flow is to reduce the movement of the arm, which is usually quite difficult to do. I've tried all sorts of different methods to stop these things from over-oiling. A special drive arm with a slot in it so it doesn't move quite as much, as well as more complicated methods using a combination of levers and springs. I'm going to make a separate video about how I figured this out. Suffice to say for the moment that underneath this type of lubricator there is a check valve. And this special check valve has a spring holding a stainless steel ball against the seat. All I did was remove the cap from the check valve and fit a 180-degree globe valve in its place. The check valve was still functioning as a check valve, and the globe valve allowed me to fit a piece of pipe back into the tank, like a bypass valve. It's such an obvious and simple concept, I don't know why I've never done this before, because in the past, particularly in the days when I obsessively ran steam locomotives, it would have been a quick and simple solution to the over-oiling problem which is prevalent with this type of lubricator. Here I've removed the lid and I can now show the system in operation. The one-way ratchet just makes it so that the oscillating cylinder picks up oil on one stroke and pumps it out on the other. It's as simple as that. This is with the bypass valve almost closed, and here I'm opening it. It's very clear that most of the oil starts to run back into the tank. As can clearly be seen, the oil comes out of the pipe on the pump stroke only. And with the bypass valve open like this, the cylinder would not be receiving any oil. By closing the bypass valve altogether, the oil stops flowing out of the bypass pipe, which is fairly obvious. By watching the oil level in the tank and the amount of oil coming out of the blast pipe, I soon found out where I needed to set the bypass valve. And that's it. I'll put the lid back on. Nothing more to say about that, but I think I'll feature this in a video, showing the components in more detail. In this clip I'm doing something wrong. There is no synchromesh available on a traction engine. You must always stop the engine before changing gear, and make sure the gears are in mesh before you open the regulator. That's it for this one. Stay safe, stay healthy, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my main Steam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.